This video was created by me to try to help students understand how to use AI tools honestly, um, because I'm noticing as AI becomes more popular, students are really not using it correctly as teachers see it on our end. So before we get into how we use it for my particular course and the discussions, let's go back to a little bit of history. So the World Wide Web was created in 1992. I actually graduated Penn State in 1991. That means I did high school, college, and graduate school without the ability to search the internet. So when I had questions to answer or papers to write, I had to go to the library, I had to look at a card catalog, and then actually go to physical books or peer-reviewed journal, I guess you can call them magazines, and then skim through and try to, collect my thoughts and then organize it into a paper to answer a question. Then, of course, eventually we have internet searches and primarily Google, where now from my computer, up until like maybe a year or two ago before AI, I had access to, millions and millions of websites. I had access to dozens of journal databases where I could just do a query. Like, for example, here I would say, how does artificial intelligence, how is it being used to cheat, or how's it being used as an additional tool? Or I could find that on Google. I could find peer-reviewed articles. I could even sort of search within those from my own computer. I didn't physically have to go anywhere. And so essentially what Google has done is it's made it much more efficient to get the information. Now, I could have, when you do a Google for something, you could go to a library, you could go to books and peer-reviewed journal articles physically and get the same results, but it may take you hours and hours, sometimes maybe even weeks and weeks, and now you can do it in literally seconds or minutes. Well, we go forward now, we have AI, Chat GPT, and things like that, where essentially it's like Google on steroids. So, where before, if you had a question, you would go to Google and look at different websites and read through them. Now, AI does all that for you and sort of gives you the response all on one sort of piece of paper. So, if you look at AI as a tool to just make your learning faster and more efficient, that's great. Why wouldn't you do that, right? Just like I started using Google instead of going like the old way through books. On the other hand, because AI literally will write information for you, it's very tempting to basically just query AI, ask it questions, and then paste the response in, put your name on it, and claim it's your own. So obviously that would be academic dishonesty because have you really learned the material, or did it's like having someone write the paper for you and submit it, which obviously is dishonest. Uh, so obviously now that AI is students are able to use AI for dishonest purposes, there are companies out there now who are trying to detect AI, just like, for example, Turnitin is a plagiarism tool where if you find a paper somewhere and basically slap your name on it, Turnitin will flag it as, oh, it's plagiarism, and here's the paper the student came from. So there are AI detectors now. Just like Turnitin and just like these detectors, they're not perfect. It's just another tool in a faculty member's belt to basically show that you're not being honest. Okay, and the burden of proof is always going to be on you, the student, and not the faculty member. And keep in mind that your writing style is like a fingerprint. So once a faculty member has read a few of your pieces of writing, any big deviation away from that is usually a flag. Okay, so we're going to operate on the assumption that all students are going to use AI 100% honestly and just use it as a new advanced sort of Google on steroids tool. Okay, so in our Met 101 class, we have a set of questions that we do every week in our discussions. Although the concepts change, the discussion questions are the same. And most of these are pretty personal. Like, what did you find most interesting? AI isn't going to know that because AI isn't scanning your brain. Number two, what surprised you? Well, AI isn't going to help you there. So basically, it really comes down to question number five, where I'm starting to see some issues with AI, because the other questions are related to the content in the course itself and your sort of experience with that content. The reason I put number 5 in there is because I want students to understand the value of the concepts they're learning and that it's not just, I need to learn this to do well on a quiz, but these concepts, although it looks like it's just meteorology, these concepts are used throughout society, a lot of different occupations. And so I want students who take this course as an elective course to realize they are getting value, that some of the concepts in here will help them in a variety of fields as sort of as they move forward. And I think it's always nice for a student to know that learning this is more important than just learning it for a test, that now I know something that I know when I run into people in different occupations, I'm going to understand when I have a conversation with them, I'm going to know what they're talking about, right? So uh, this past week, we talked about pressure and density. So let's look at number 5. Suppose you get to number 5 and you're like, gee, I understand what pressure and density measure. I know how it relates to meteorology, but I see here it says do not choose meteorology or a pilot, right? Because I want you to sort of move outside of the notes. What other careers? Maybe I don't know any other careers where pressure and density might be important. So this is where traditionally you would go to a Google search, right? And you would do some research. Well, let's see how we can do this using AI and using it in a way where it's not going to be flagged as cheating and it actually is going to be written in your own words. Okay. Um, so what professions might require understanding of these concepts? All right. So let me go to a popular AI machine called Claude.ai. Okay. Uh, it's free. You just have to register it through like a Google account or create a name and password or whatever. All right. So let's think of density and say, okay, let's do this actually. List 3 professions that require an understanding. I can't tell you. I'm slow. Sorry, I'm a chopstick typer. Understanding, understanding of density, question mark. And then I'm going to hit go and let Claude think. All right, so civil engineers, geologists, oceanographers. All right, so watch what happens if I just copy that. Oh, is my computer having a cramp here? Let me copy this. Okay, let me go back, come back. Copy, I don't know if it's copying. Let's say something, my computer is having a brain cramp here. All right, I'm going to stop the video for a second. Okay, here we go. So let's say I copy this, right? So I could have not even read this. I copy this, I put it in GPT-0, for example. I hit run scan. Oh, you're bagged. 90% AI. Well, that shows you how good GPT-0 is. It was obviously 100% AI. And there are other tools that I have, like, for example, Winston that I pay for that I think is much better than GPT-0. But because this is the one probably most of your faculty members are using as a tool. All right, well, obviously, you didn't write this in your own words. So let's go back and say, all right, we like geology. Okay, so we know geologists. So maybe now we do, okay, so describe how geologists use density in their profession. So see, we're just taking our previous results and we're refining it a little bit. All right. Don't you feel smart now, right? So of course, if I were to be foolish and just copy this and throw it in GPT-0, how do I go back to do a new one? Okay. All right. So let's just throw that in there. And of course, we know what's going to happen. Ooh, 96%. Well, we know it really should be 100%. All right, so we're going to go back to Claude and say, okay, so we really need to learn this. So this is the information you want to learn, but you don't want to have it all written out for you like this because the way your brain works is it's literally going to pretty much copy this, right? Even if you don't copy and paste, if you read this and then as you're looking at it, open up another file in Word and start typing, it's pretty much going to sound like this. So now watch what you can do. Say, outline the above results. Ah, okay. So now, do you agree these aren't written sentences? So it's much harder to be flagged if you are writing using an outline, right? So how many teachers tell you outline your thoughts and then write the paper? Okay, so I'm going to copy this. I'm going to open up Word, right? Make a blank document. I like to make my margins narrow to get as much on a page as possible to save ink if I end up printing it. I'm going to paste in this outline. Okay, so now I have that. And I'm going to sort of look through there and let's see. Dun, 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 dun. I'm looking, I'm looking, I'm looking. All right. Okay, and we're all interested in volcanoes, right? So how do geologists use density to study volcanoes? So you see, I'm not cheating here because I'm pretending I'm you, and you started with, gee, I don't know any occupations where I might use density. Now you've already learned of at least 3 different occupations that use density. You focused on geologists and you realize, holy cow, there are a bunch of different ways geologists use density. Ah, so volcanoes are pretty cool. So now we can look at how geologists study density in volcanoes. So now I'll say, outline these results. And again, this has only taken a few minutes. Okay, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put it in Word. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this file. And let's do it in my desktop. You should probably do it in whatever your Met 101 folder is. I'll just do it on the desktop. And I'm going to do geologist, geologist discussion. Okay, so in a moment, I'm going to stop the video. Then I'm going to study the material that this AI tool has given to me. Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at all this stuff. I'm going to read it carefully. I'm going to learn it. Then I'm going to write what I think I just learned totally in my own words. Okay, and that's how I'm going to answer the question. And then we're going to throw it back in the AI detectors and see what happens. So I'm pausing for a moment here. Okay, we're back. And in just a matter of about 5 minutes, I read through all the results. I looked at the outline. And what I did was I have all of my outlines up here. But what I did was I created a page break, a new page in Word. So I wasn't looking at it. And I said, all right, what did I just learn about geologists and volcanoes, for example, and density? So you can see what I wrote. Where I wrote, in my research, I found that there are quite a few professions that use density. I learned that civil engineers, oceanographers, and geologists use density. I will focus on geologists. Okay. I don't know why I wrote that. One R that. Okay. Let's just get rid of it. This is obviously human written because that was pretty lame. Geologists use density in the study of volcanoes. Magma can be made up of higher or lower density. The higher the density, the more likely a volcano will be explosive. Lower density lava tends to flow rather than explode. Low density lava flow also travels farther, so geologists use density to predict which areas need to be evacuated in the event of an eruption. Right? So that's totally in my own words. I even had some grammar and typo issues. So, and I got all that from reading, 10 or 15 minutes of my, search with AI. So now watch what happens when I put that into GPT-0, for example. Let's go back to GPT-0. Okay, let's go and do a scan. So let's see what happens. Boom, 95% human. So zero probability that it's AI generated. Now keep in mind, all the information that I just typed, I learned using AI, but I didn't let AI write it for me. And that's the key, right? So just like you use Google, if you find a web page that has great information, you don't just send the link in and say, here it is. You show the professor from this website, here is what I learned, and you do it in your own words, right? So basically, it took me about 10, 15 minutes to write something totally in my own words that I didn't know 15 or 20 minutes ago that I found in that fast period of time because I used AI. This would have taken me probably a couple of hours if I was using Google, and it probably would have taken me days in the old days where I had to do books. So if you look at AI as a way to rapidly learn information, that's how you use it. Don't let it write the material for you. Okay? I hope this helps you in all of your classes.